everybody, this is Ms. Garcia and welcome to my first video, and the science starters are now going to be on a video so that way you can watch it as many times as you need to. If you only need to watch it one time, then just watch it one time, but make sure you take the notes. Your worksheet that I gave you is going to be your notes, and I added more blanks just because I think that it activates your mind so you don't kind of like fall asleep between blanks, like, oh, there's not another blank until like 5 sentences down. So I did add more blanks. So basically the videos are going to be like taking the place of reading the book, which I don't think that everybody learns that way. You can also always watch YouTube videos on whatever the topic is up here. There's a lot of good videos. If you just put, for example, you were searching on YouTube, you could Google viruses and high school, and sometimes you could even put viruses high school texts, and really good videos will come out. Also, Brain Pop is very simple, very easy cartoons that you can watch and get some more background info. But if you just like short and sweet, let me get it over with, get some background info, then that's what the purpose of my videos are going to be. Anyhow, so I think that was all I wanted to say. If not, I'll just keep adding stuff. You can always put something in the comments, make sure it's about the lesson, or you can always ask me in class. And when we're in class, we're going to do some activities related to viruses or whatever topic of the day is, and we're also going to make sure that we learn the vocabulary. So first I'll go through the presentation, and then right after I'll go through the related vocabulary. And it's also very important for you to go through that vocab, because it'll just, if you know the vocabulary, it'll make it easier to eliminate answer choices. Sometimes there's answer choices that are just extra information there, and if you just know or you have that background info, it'll really help you just to like zip through the test and do your best on it at the same time. So with that said, here's the first video, the first presentation. I hope you enjoy them, and I hope you pay attention because we're going to be using this stuff in class. Oh, wrong mouse. All right. So think about this question as I'm going through the presentation. Everyone has had a viral infection, such as the flu or the common cold. Describe the symptoms you experienced when you had one of these infections. What steps can be taken to slow down transmission of the flu or the common cold? Well, some of you have seen around campus sometimes in the late spring or sometimes at the beginning of the school year, everyone is getting sick. And there is a difference between bacteria, which can also cause colds or respiratory infections, and a virus. And the way that you can tell the difference between a viral flu and a bacteria cold is one of them is how fast the onset is. If from one day to the next you have a fever and you feel terrible and you're just sick and thrown down in bed, more than likely it's a virus. If it takes a while, couple days, you kind of feel stuffy and then your head hurts and then you got runny nose, and then you start coughing, and then you got all this stuff going on, that might be a common cold, and that would be caused by a bacteria. Another very important thing is that bacteria can be killed by antibiotics, and that's what the word antibiotic means. It means anti is against, and biotic means something that's alive. So bacteria are actually living organisms because they can reproduce and things like that. Viruses, on the other hand, are considered non-living, as you'll see in the presentation. They're considered non-living because they require your body cells or another organism's body cells in order to reproduce. If for example, let's say it's gross, I know, but if you sneeze and you sneeze it all over the computer and the keyboard and stuff, well, that virus is not going to live there for very long, only long enough until somebody, it can be transmitted to somebody else. So if someone else touches that and then rubs their eyes or face or nose, grabs a pencil that was used by somebody that has a cold, then that virus is going to get into your body. And this bacteria are transmitted the same way, but they do take a little bit longer to act. And there's some other factors about bacteria, cold, and virus flu that are very important to know, but I won't go over them right now in this lecture because I don't want to make that long. So viruses are made of a nucleic DNA or RNA of a nucleic acid, which could be DNA or RNA or both, and it's in a protein coat. They are considered to be non-living because they don't respire, grow, metabolize nutrients, or develop. They can only reproduce by invading a cell. So here you have a picture of a virus, and what you see, the yellow part on the outside is protein, and our bodies also have proteins. So sometimes our body doesn't recognize this as a protein that doesn't belong to it, unless the virus is outside of your body cells. But if the virus, once the virus injects inside of here, it has DNA. Once that DNA is injected into your body cells, then that DNA starts causing your body cells to make virus cells, and that's how they continue to reproduce. But if the virus is just free floating around in the environment, it does not have a way of reproducing or making more of itself, and that's why it's considered to be non-living. Think of it kind of like as an envelope and a letter inside the envelope. Inside the envelope, the letter would be the DNA or the RNA because it's got the written instructions of how to make more viruses. And outside, the protein coat is the envelope because it just holds together that DNA. So really, viruses are very, very, very simple. They're actually, most of them are smaller than bacteria even, if you were to look at them under the microscope. But some viruses are quite large, and yet they're only made of protein and DNA or RNA or nucleic acids. A bacteriophage is a virus that attacks bacteria cells. They kind of look like little soldiers, and that's why they're easy for me to think about. Or they also kind of look like aliens. So these are bacteriophages, and they attack only bacteria, not humans or other animals. And so, yeah, a bacteria can get sick too, get sick with a virus. So these guys are smaller than bacteria, and they'll land on a bacteria. So this green part on the outside is like the envelope, so that's the protein. And what's that stuff inside? Right, that's the nucleic acid or DNA or RNA, depending on what kind of bacteriophage it is. So viral nucleic acid, DNA or RNA. Before the virus can replicate or make more of itself, it must attach to and enter a host cell. The virus is shaped to lock onto a receptor site of a specific host cell. So viruses don't just go inside your body randomly picking whatever cell it wants to attack. For example, flu viruses will only attack your respiratory system or your mucous membrane cells. Those are the ones that it has a receptor site that kind of like a jigsaw puzzle clicks together. If a cell, whether it's like in your hair or your eyeballs or your liver or something, if it doesn't have the outside receptor site, then that virus is not going to go into it. So here's the host cell. Same as when we talk about predator and prey relationships, a host is the organism that gets attacked. And here's a different type of virus. The green part is the protein coat, and inside, I don't know if you can see this little light squiggly line, it's inserting the DNA or the RNA, nucleic acid. The virus injects its nucleic acid, DNA or RNA, into the host cell. Then the host cell makes copies of the viral genes and the proteins, and then the new viruses are assembled. So if you have a question on how do viruses replicate, this slide tells you all that information. The new viruses burst out of the host cell, killing it. They can now infect and kill other host cells. So this slide doesn't have the word lice, not like piojos lice, but L-Y-S-E, lice, or the word lytic, L-Y-T-I-C. Both of these words mean burst out. They bust open the cell, and then all these new little viruses that were made by your cells go out and infect your other cells. So your poor host cells just burst open, and it dies, obviously, and then more cells are attacked. Not all viruses immediately kill the cells they inject. After the viral nucleic acid is injected into the host cell, it may remain inactive for a period of time. So, for example, it's kind of gross, but if you think, well, if you don't know already, everybody has herpes already. And there's different species of herpes virus, but I'll tell you about the cold sore herpes virus. So everybody's been exposed, maybe when you were a little kid, or maybe as you were growing up, you drank out of a friend's or a sibling's cup. So you were exposed to the herpes virus. And maybe you didn't immediately get a cold sore, but you notice that now that you're older, if you're stressed out, if you haven't been sleeping a lot, if your diet and you haven't been drinking water, if that's kind of off, then you might develop cold sores. And they do develop mostly when you're in a stressful situation, because that lowers your immune system. So your cells are easier attacked by viruses. And also, if the virus was in your body, it injected its DNA into your body, and that DNA got integrated into your normal cell's body. So then it goes into the dormant phase, and it's just sleeping there waiting for the perfect time to come out. And the perfect time for the virus might be when you have a really hot date, and you might just have a herpes virus, and it's kind of unfortunate. But that's another way that viruses will work. So the picture is just pointing to the virus DNA that's in your host cell. So everybody has herpes, the virus for a cold sores. Viruses cause diseases such as smallpox, AIDS, influenza, flu, warts, and the common cold. So smallpox is a virus that's related to chickenpox. Everybody has had chickenpox, and the reason that everybody has it just once in their life is because the virus, once it attacked your body when you were a little kid in elementary and you were full of those little polka dots all over your body, then the virus it goes dormant. So the DNA of the virus is still in your cells, but it doesn't pop out anymore. And the reason for that is because your body is now immune to that virus protein. It recognizes it and it just keeps it settled down. Some people, though, will develop a different, I wouldn't say it's a disease, but a condition called shingles. So your body has bands of nerves that run across your body, like, for example, on your back. And that's where the chickenpox virus likes to hang out, in your nerve cells. So it's sleeping in there, but some people, maybe when you're older, an adult, will develop shingles, and it's kind of like a very painful rash, or your skin is just very sensitive, and it looks like maybe you touched poison ivy, really red, really sensitive, or sometimes really painful. And so these shingles are treated with the same medication that you would treat chickenpox, or antiviral medications like I don't know, Valtrex and things like that. So yeah, the same ones that the same antiviral medications. Now you wouldn't use antibiotics against a virus because antibiotics are for something living, which would be like a bacteria. Antivirals mainly attack the protein that the virus is made of because your body can easily recognize the protein. The HIV virus, which causes AIDS, attacks a type of white blood cell called helper T cells. Helper T cells help the body fight infection. So these are like immune system cells that get attacked by the HIV virus. So that becomes a very serious infection. HIV, AIDS patients usually don't die from the virus itself. They die from a common cold or an infection that their body just could not fight off because the HIV virus is attacking their immune system. Viruses have a specific shape that will only fit a certain type of cell. I kind of already mentioned this before, but so let's say that this is the virus protein on the outside. It'll have these protein shapes, and your host cells naturally have receptors for other cells. They recognize each other. It recognizes whether there's a cell that's from your own body or if you got a blood donation or something. Those are the things on the outside of your cell that recognize if there's a foreign object in your body. So the virus, what it does, it kind of mimics or copies your receptor sites, and that way it can attach to a specific kind of cell. Antibiotics are used to kill bacterial infections, but will not kill viral infections. That's why it's very important when you have a cold and you don't know if it's a cold or a flu, it's very important to go to the doctor and make sure that you're using the right medication. Because if you go across and you get a shot for antibiotics and what you really have is a flu virus, it's not going to do anything. And those antibiotics, I mean, apart from killing bad bacteria, they also kill good bacteria that's in your body, for example, in your intestines. Those good bacteria are there kind of keeping bad bacteria out of the way, and they're kind of like taking over the place, and if a bad bacteria comes in, there's no space for that bad bacteria to hang out. So if you use antibiotics for something that you don't need, you might actually cause an increase of bad bacteria to grow into your body. And also those bacteria can start to develop resistance. So you're going to need stronger and stronger antibiotics. Vaccines are made of a weaker or similar virus that triggers the body to make antibodies that will fight off the viral infection. The first person that actually invented vaccines, what he did was he saw that cows got cowpox and people got chickenpox, So what he actually did was he injected, I think himself or a little boy with cowpox into their body, and then that person didn't get chickenpox later in their life. So that's kind of how vaccines were made. The cowpox didn't affect people the way that chickenpox does. So the people were able to, their immune system was able to recognize that virus protein and start to build immunity to it. So then when it was exposed to chickenpox, it wouldn't be as bad as before. So let's go through some questions. Most of the presentations have little questions like this at the end, just so that you can wake up and try to think about what the information was that you were exposed to. So viruses are considered to be non-living because they A, do not respire, B, do not grow and develop, C, cannot reproduce without invading a living cell, or D, all of the above. So pick your choice. D, all of the above is correct. An example of a disease caused by a virus is A. Strep throat, B. AIDS, C. Staph infection, or D. Diphtheria. AIDS. You should know that AIDS is an example of a viral infection. Here's a text question. Which of the following is found in both cells and viruses? And I know you can't see letter A, and that's caused by the reflection of the projector onto the board, but this says silica, which is actually a chemical component. B, genetic material, C, digestive cavity, or D, flagella. And if you don't know what these words mean, I would suggest that you look them up in a glossary or on the internet, on Google, or in the dictionary. So genetic material, digestive cavity, and flagella. Make your choice. Genetic material. So here you have the protein, and you only see the protein coat. But in the inside of the little head part, that would be where the genetic material, nucleic acid, DNA, or RNA. Any of those words mean genetic material. Same thing. Which of the following cannot, it's hard to see, I know, cannot metabolize nutrients? Metabolize nutrients means it cannot use things like vitamins and stuff like that. So here you have a picture of what you'll learn to recognize as a bacteria cell. Here's a virus cell. It's got a protein coat and DNA inside. This square-looking cell usually represents a plant cell, and this round-looking cell with a large nucleus represents usually an animal cell. So the question again was, which of the following cannot metabolize nutrients? And the correct answer is G. So there it gives you the hint. So now, I know this video is quite long, but let's go through the vocabulary. And if you look at a word like this, and you don't automatically know what it is, put a star next to that word and make sure you look it up later, or write down the definition, or draw a picture of it. Virus, a disease-causing non-living particle. Replicate, duplicar, to duplicate or copy. Infection, infección, when a disease-causing microorganism invades the body. Symptom, síntoma, a sign or indication of something that a person suffers from that indicates a particular disease. Transmission, transmisión, the passing of disease from one person to another, the act of sending something from one place to the other. So she's sending a virus to him. Maybe she sneezed and she didn't cover her mouth. Assemble, ensamblados, armados, to put together. Antibiotic, antibiótico, a substance that destroys bacteria and helps to cure disease. Vaccine, vacuna, a substance made from a weakened or killed pathogen that stimulates the body to make antibodies against that pathogen. Metabolize, metabolismo, to undergo metabolism. Metabolism means all of the chemical processes in a cell or organism that allow it to stay alive. So this is the end of our viruses lecture. I hope you took good notes, and if you missed anything or you didn't understand something, go back through the presentation, and also if there was any words that you don't understand, make sure you ask me in class or look them up on the internet or in a dictionary, and that'll really help you to help things stick into your head. So that concludes our first video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're looking forward to the activities that we'll do in class, because that's really where we help everything just kind of glue together and stay in your mind better for when you take the test. So I'll see you in class. Bye.